So today we're going to talk about initial dispatch to a commercial fire alarm. Several different scenarios that you may or may not get dispatched to is a general fire alarm at a commercial building. You could get dispatched to a smoke detector alarm. You could get dispatched to a pull station alarm. You could get dispatched to a water flow alarm. And so they all mean different things as far as what may or may not be going on inside that building. So as you're en route, one of the things that you're going to want to ask for early on in that sequence of en route to the structure is ask for a property representative. Get somebody on their way that knows the building and that can help you out, that can identify where things are at, and maybe provide you a quicker access into the building instead of having to use a Knox box. So once you arrive on the building, you're doing the same thing as you do on every other call. You're looking as you're approaching, you're doing your mental size up, and as you approach, you're doing that size up. You're giving your size up and you're establishing command and you're placing your apparatus typically near the front door of the building, which is identified by the letter A on our commercial buildings in Boone County. So typically it's very identifiable as far as where the front of commercial buildings are, the main entrance. As you get out, we talk about doing 360s, and you're still going to want to do a 360. If it's a very large commercial structure and you have the ability to drive around it, that may be your best option, is to do a 360 by driving your apparatus around the building and then placing it back at the front. Some of the things you're looking for on your 360 is just what we're looking for on a residential structure fire. We're looking for smoke, we're looking for flame, we're looking for basement, which may or may not be identifiable. We're looking for hazards, we're looking for utility controls, and we're also listening and looking for fire alarms, either sounding or the visual flashing light inside of a window. If you have any of those things, you now have more information for your 360 that you can give a further size up and establish that tactical channel and give assignments for people to stage. Once you get there, once you've made access, if it's in the middle of the night and that building is locked up or closed, you're going to want to look in some windows. You're going to want to see what you see inside that building. If you see smoke in there, that then plays into what your next tactic is going to be and how you're going to make entry into the building. If you hear or see a water flow alarm, it could be an old style water gong. It could be a new style horn strobe on the outside of a building. If you have a water flow alarm that we'll talk more about later, that indicates that you have water flowing in that building. Does it mean that it's on fire? Not necessarily. Does it mean that a sprinkler pipe is broken? Could be. Could it be a false alarm? Typically not, as long as you have an active water flow indicator on the outside of the building. It tells you that water is still flowing inside that building. So those are the types of things that on the outside of the building, once you arrive, that we're looking for. So this scenario, we're going to go through what a typical response to a general fire alarm would be in a commercial building. So we've done our 360, we have nothing showing. We have audible visual alarms in the windows of the building. It's in the middle of the night, so it's a closed building, it's locked up. Is the property rep on scene, yes or no? If the property rep is on scene, let's make contact with them. Let's find out where that annunciator panel is. Make sure it's at the front entrance, and we're going to get a key from him so we can make entry into the building. Before we do that, what are the things that we're going to be wearing? What is our tool choice? What does our PPE look like? We have to be ready to go to work because we just don't know inside these commercial buildings what's going on. So full PPE, SCBA on, mask with you, hand tools, forcible entry and forcible exit tools, your married set, your Halligan bar or your married set, and your hammer of some sort, sledgehammer, and then also a water can for sure, because there's a lot of times you may be able to extinguish a small fire with a water can. 2.5 gallon water can to put out lots of fire. So those are the tools of choice that you're going to be either placing at the front of the doorway and or taking in with you. Okay, so we've made entry into the building. We've accessed the fire annunciator panel, which is just an alarm panel indicator. It tells you what's going on inside the building. So if we were dispatched to a true general fire alarm, it may just say general fire alarm. Typically these are an addressable system, which will tell you or give you an indication of where the alarm is coming from. There may be a map showing you the zones. There may be a map inside the Knox box that shows you zones, but it could be as simple as saying west hallway smoke detector or east hallway heat detector. north hallway pull station. It could be different things, so you need to read your annunciator panel and see what it's telling you, and then act accordingly. So the first thing you're going to want to do is open that with your key or with the key and silence that alarm, okay? Because you're going to want to communicate within this building, and when you have 100 decibel horn strobes going off, it's very hard to communicate. So you're going to want to hit silence, and it's very simple to just silence the alarm. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to reset it. It's just going to stop the horns from going off. Once you've done that and you've identified where that location is, now we have to go and investigate. And that's where tactically you have to decide, do I have the tools to do that? What am I seeing initially inside this building? Do I have smoke? Do I have a smoke layer? Could I still potentially have an active fire? Because we don't typically go into buildings without a hose line. So our tactics are going to change based on what we're seeing inside the building and what we have on our fire alarm panel. So many commercial buildings are not required to have, i.e., smoke detectors throughout the building. It's really based on the occupancy of the building. So this is just this building, fire headquarters, is just a general business classification. So it's not required to have smoke detectors. It has water flow alarms for a sprinkler system, and it has pull stations. So the idea of that is when the building is occupied, if there's a fire, people are evacuating, and as they're going out the door, they're pulling the fire alarm at the doorway, at the exit door. And we'll show you what that looks like. But that's how they're activating the alarm system throughout the building, is to pull the alarm and say, hey, there's a fire somewhere. It alerts everybody else to get out of the building. Hotels, motels obviously have smoke detectors in the sleeping rooms and hallways. School buildings may or may not be required to have smoke detectors in classrooms, but they're generally in the hallways with pull stations near every exit door. And so it really depends on the classification of the building. So fire headquarters does not have that. It has pull stations and water flows. So if this was a general fire alarm, we would anticipate to see a pull station at a certain location or a certain door location. And so that's what we're going to simulate today, is that it's a pull station, and we're going to go take a look at that. So we've made entry into the building. We have an obvious fire alarm going off. We come to the annunciator panel. It says first alarm, manual pull station, reception, west entrance. Again, you can hear how loud it is, so we want to immediately silence the alarm, and it's simply by pushing the silence button. So this is going to remain in alarm, but you've now shut off the alarm horn strobes throughout the building so you can walk around. So the alarm panel tells us reception, west entrance. So when we're going to go and find out which pull station was actually activated and make sure it's still in that position. Okay, so we've made access to the west entrance door, and this is what a pull station may look like when it's been pulled. It could be like this. You could have somebody try to reset that by pushing that forward. You cannot reset that pull station without unlocking it and replacing it into here. So the way this works is, this is just like any door latch. It fits in behind this and it pushes this button in. So once that button is pushed in, the system is reset, and then you go to your alarm panel and you reset it from there. When I release this, it's going to sound off again. So we typically do not carry keys. You'll find these in the Knox box or again with the property representatives. So that is reset. Okay, so for this scenario, we're going to arrive on the scene of a water flow alarm. Again, same principle. You arrive on scene, you're doing your size up, you're looking for things that indicate an active fire within the building. On the 360, that's what you're looking for. When you hear the word fire flow or fire flow alarm, you should be anticipating some sort of sprinkler connection with a horn strobe, or in the older type buildings or older systems, you're going to have an active, true water gong or electronic bell. So on our 360, we're going to identify where the FDC is, and then we're going to identify what a water gong or the electronic bell sounds like, and we'll go from there when we get back to that location. So we were dispatched again to a water flow alarm on our 360 on the back corner opposite of where we actually parked. we identified the water gong, which you can see up there. It's actually an electronic bell that was ringing, and we identified the fire department connection for the automatic sprinkler system. So on this one is a Siamese 2.5 connection. Code today requires a 4-inch Storz connection. So you have the opportunity to see both styles of fire department connections. They do the same thing, they operate the same way, and their purpose is the same, and it's to support the sprinkler system, not provide water for the sprinkler system. Older buildings, you're going to see the water gongs. Newer buildings, you're going to see a horn strobe that's rated for exterior, and we'll show you that at another location. All right, so we talked about the old bell type water gong system. This is the new one. This is an exterior horn strobe that identifies where your fire department connection is. So that will always be located at or above the fire department connection. This is a newer system, and so it has the 4-inch Storz connection. You'll see that this is a locking Storz cap. Keeps vandals from gaining access to that. So on your engine, you have a fire department connection Storz key that simply inserts here and unlocks that cap. And you're able to remove it and place your 4-inch Storz connection directly to that from your discharge on your engine. When you're done, you replace the cap and you lock it back into place. Latch engaged, latch unlocked. So there's an indicator on there. Very simple. Every sprinkler department connection will have a fire hydrant located within 100 feet. So this one obviously is about 10 feet away, but your supply to your engine comes from that hydrant. Your discharge then goes to your sprinkler connection to support it. Again, we're not providing the water for the sprinkler system, we're only supporting it. Two things you got to know before you do that, before you charge that line is, one, do I want to support the sprinkler system and provide more water to it? If you have an active fire or you have had a fire in that building, that's when you're going to want to support that sprinkler connection. If you have a broken sprinkler head, a broken sprinkler line, you're obviously not going to want to put more water in the building that's unnecessary. So you have to make access to your building, you have to make contact with somebody that knows what's going on inside there. If it's in the middle of the night, that's what we're going to have to do, is go determine, do I support this with water, or am I just simply going in to shut the system off to stop the damage of the water flow inside the building? So near any sprinkler riser or sprinkler control system, you should have a cabinet that's identified as sprinkler heads or spread sprinkler heads. So inside here, you're required to carry a certain number of replacement heads based on the size of your system. As you can see, there's several different ones. We have white sprinkler heads that have a glass filament. Inside that filament is alcohol. So it's activated by heat. So once this sprinkler head, being green, reaches 200 degrees Fahrenheit, that glass ball breaks, this copper piece right here falls out, and water flows through the sprinkler. So you can tell by looking at this sprinkler that this is a pendant, which means it hangs down. This is a pendant type sprinkler. Water comes through this orifice, hits the deflector, and puts out a water spray to extinguish the fire. You also have a sidewall sprinkler head. Okay, same temperature rating, it's green, so it's 200 degrees. But this sprinkler head is designed to go this way on a sidewall. So water hits this and sprays in a fan pattern down below it. So this is a sidewall sprinkler head. And then you have an upright sprinkler head. So again, green for 200 degrees. The sprinkler head is designed to go sit like this. So water hits this deflector and forces a fan of water to come out in a 360 degrees, go in that direction. So, people will ask me, if one of these sprinkler heads goes off, does every sprinkler head in the system go off? No, it does not. Each of these sprinkler heads, or each sprinkler head in the system, has to have enough heat to break that filament and allow that sprinkler head to open up. Typically, these systems are designed to support anywhere from, this system is designed to support anywhere from 7 sprinkler heads to 24 heads at one time. Very rarely are we going to go into a fire and see more than 2 to 3 heads flowing at any one time. So these systems are not designed for the entire building, every sprinkler head to flow at the same time. It's just not like it is at the movies. If you see in movies, sometimes they'll pull that pull station and the sprinkler system goes off. Not true. This only indicates that there's a fire and you're activating an alarm. This has nothing to do with the sprinkler system itself. So the fire department connection, as you can see, this pipe goes through the wall, so that's where it comes in at. Comes in here. This is a one-way valve that only allows water to come into the system, not flow back out. And so this is where you're supporting your sprinkler system. This system right here has 2 different systems on it. It has a wet system and it has a dry system. So we're going to talk about how that works. This right here is where the water comes into the sprinkler system right here. This is your main valve that comes in. This is a control valve. So if you determine that the sprinkler system is not there putting out a fire and you no longer need it to flow water, you need to shut the system off. So you can shut it off at this control valve right here. This is a backflow preventer valve that keeps water from the system going into the public water system or into the domestic water system on this side. So this is a backflow preventer, so you can shut it off at this location. And this is feeding water to both systems, dry and wet. The wet system is strictly what they call a shotgun riser. There's really not a lot going on with it. You can see that it comes up and it goes underneath the mezzanine, and then it goes across the top of the mezzanine. The reason why you would have a wet pipe sprinkler system is because it is in an area that is fully conditioned and will not freeze. So from there, it also feeds the dry system. On a dry sprinkler system, you have water to this dry pipe valve. It's called a clapper valve. And you have water to here, and you have air pressure above it. So any area that would be susceptible to freezing, you don't want water in. So this is why we have dry pipe systems. You can see this is an air compressor that provides air pressure above this dry pipe valve. So the entire system above this point is filled with air. You can see it goes straight up into the attic, goes across the mezzanine, and enters the attic space above the resident rooms that's here at Station 16. 2 things about a dry pipe system that you need to know whether it's activated or not. So if you look at the water pressure side of this, you have a water gauge, and it says water, and it's below this pipe. And you've got about 110 pounds of pressure on this water line coming in. If you look above this valve, you have the air pressure, which is about 34 pounds of air. So you have 34 pounds of air holding back 100 pounds of water. The way they do that is strictly, it's a lever type valve. So there's a little bit of water on here with air pressure holding that valve closed. Once the sprinkler head activates on the dry system, the air pressure will be released out of that sprinkler head. And once it hits about 15 pounds of air pressure, this valve will open and water will flood the entire sprinkler system on the dry side. Code requires that once this valve opens, you have water at your furthest sprinkler head from this point in 60 seconds or less. So you may have, on larger commercial buildings, you may have what's called an accelerator, which drains the air even faster so water can get to that sprinkler head within 60 seconds. This one is a pretty small system, so it has no problem doing that. So again, if you're flowing water and you want the system shut off, your main control valve is where you want to do that. You're going to shut the water off to the entire sprinkler system because you may not be able to identify if it's coming off the wet side or the dry side. Play it safe, let's just shut the water off to the entire system. If you do know that it's on the dry side, you can shut it off here, this valve, this control valve. But once you do that, Once you've determined that you want to stop the water flow, let's help the resident or the occupant of that building out by opening the main drain. So what you're doing there is once this water valve is shut off, you're going to open the main drain, and it's going to help drain the water out of the system. So you stop the water damage from coming out of that sprinkler. So we talked about turning off the water at the control valve, which is labeled control valve. This is a brand new system. So this is a butterfly type valve. When it's open, the valve is running with the pipe, just like on a gas line. When you close this is going to go this way, and that means it's shut. The older systems are going to have what's called an OS&Y, or outside stem and yoke. And it'll be a big wheel with a steel rod that's going up, that's threaded. When that is open, that rod is showing. When that valve is closed, that rod will be down. And so you're screwing that valve down, or you're screwing the valve